Yeah, the topic we deliberate today is can children borrow their parents' worries? Big question. This is an invisible inheritance that children get from us. It's just not the external um, heredity factors like physical factors like eye color, skin color, height, weight. It's more than that. They also inherit the emotional climates. Inherit in the sense not by birth, it's more like epigenetics. The environment shapes any individual. So, definitely, if I am worrying in the environment, children do imbibe it, any unspoken fears I have, any chronic worries that I have, anxieties that I carry, anything, child will begin to look at us, assess us. They may not understand the reason, they may not understand uh, that it is worry, but they know that environment is not safe now. Somewhere there is a communication to the child that I need to be on alert right now. Because somewhere, they call them as mirror neurons. The brain has this, to look at an adult around and um, behave the same. That is how young children learn, through imitation, through looking up at people around. So any tension that I carry, my tight shoulders, my headaches, or my hurried breathing, the rush that I go through, my expressions, the tone of my voice, everything is something children feel it. I mentioned in one other episode, my dad worked in the railways and he had to like go any time of the day. So sometimes middle of the night, many a times he would get call at middle of the night and my mother would get up and start preparing to pack his lunch dinner. And invariably before he left, she would like pray, light up the lamp and pray and pray loudly also that he come back home safe. And I used to wonder, middle of the night, it was never ritual that I had seen of lighting the lamp. So the feeling was then my dad is stepping into something that is not safe. What would he be fighting? I used to read Amar Chitra Kathas then. So there are like all these Rakshasas that Krishna fights with. What is it that he has to come home safe from? Unknown, unforeseen. Uh, my mother may have had one particular situation that she's praying for and whatever, but I observing her, I can go crazy with ideas because of the inputs that I'm getting from different sources. So children are looking at what parents are doing with their limited experience of what the world is. They make up their own stories about it. When adult appears unsafe, somewhere the child begins to feel there must be a danger. Then if and there's another danger, right? When dad goes out of the house is without a dad, without a man. Then house is also danger. We lived in a tiled roof house, so anytime anybody could take off a tile and jump inside. So then we become hyper vigilant, cannot sleep well at night, always watching, always scanning for danger, becoming aware of any sounds around, right? Always expecting something bad. This is simple things that are very common. Um, but then it translates into something else where a child cannot sleep without thinking of anything, just fairy tales, enjoy. It's not that case at all. So somewhere it comes down to the child, right? And if a parent is perfect, one of my aunts, she was super perfect. I mean, everything has to be done a certain way. Folding clothes, hanging clothes, and the order in which clothes were hung on the cloth line. We never had dryers then. So it had to be a certain way. And whenever we would go visit her or stay with her, we would only help in things that she did not mind, like brooming the yard around. I mean, she had a very big yard, cleaning that up. Though she had a way to do it, she let us do it. But then certain things she would never let anyone. So it's like not let go. Her son got a similar habit. Don't let go. People may not do it well. People not do it my way. Worry that you may spoil my way of doing. Rather than children learn. I mean, the son is the same way now. Cannot trust his children that they would do something right. And you may have, extra temper, high temper father or mother, either ways. And the other spouse is suppressing their emotions. Shh, don't talk. Let dad go away, then we'll talk. And the dad steps out of the home. Let's assume that dad is of high temper. Dad steps away, then the party begins at the house. When he's around, suppress your emotions. Later on, as we grow up, anybody of his features come into your space, or a boss comes into your space with some of his characteristics, then don't express. Quietly carry it. Express it someplace where it doesn't matter. Could become how I carry it as an adult. In some cases, I have one person I'm working with. She lost her dad when she was actually old enough, in like the way we would think of 15, 16 years of age, because he was an alcoholic and he also didn't eat properly. He passed away. And then family went into a crisis, financial crisis. So a mother was constantly worried of how to feed the next meal. So this girl became the father of the house, went on to earn some money, provide for the family, and don't share much with mom. Keep your problems to yourself because mom is already worried, already distressed. Don't share. So suddenly she became an adult, a breadwinner, like head of the family. So some of us take those roles of becoming the spouse, becoming the fathers or the grandfathers, and we become adults too soon, you know, because we see carrying the other adults around me carrying that worry, right? Because I, as a child, cannot understand the whole process yet. And you see some of us walking around with anxiety, just rush, do things. Nothing happened, do it fast. For what joy, we don't know. Just get it done. It has to be all done perfect before 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. And then sit and do nothing. But I want it all done. If it doesn't get done, I'm anxious. Then child gets worried. Child carries that anxiety of the parent, become worry of the child, worry that I cannot get up late today, I cannot just not do my bed today, I cannot take late shower today though it is a Sunday, things like that. So these epigenetics begin shaping us. So when a child is constantly exposed to panic attacks in the family, getting panicked easily, maid doesn't come this morning and I panic, rather than trying to find a solution. Of course, the reason I panic has another story associated with it. But then catastrophic thinking, something worst will happen. Today I will spill milk, I'll burn dal, I'll do everything possible because the cook isn't here today. Constantly worrying what if scenarios that never ends. What if I build a home? One story. What if I don't build a home and buy an apartment? Another story. There is never a quick arrival at a decision. Going indecisiveness, going between what if scenarios constantly, even for small things. Should I buy this vegetable? Maybe that is cheaper. I should get that. Should I get a larger quantity of those because they are cheaper? No, it will go bad. We know all of that, but we still go and endlessly be indecisive. And if a child is with me, then child does not understand that I have this struggle going on with my indecision. But child sees me not buying quickly, instantly, checking for stuff. So something must be wrong here. Maybe we should wait it out. Somewhere the child begins to feel that fear, which translates to worry or anger much later. So typically, what where we transfer worry to the child, very obvious ways are this academic anxiety. You have to do well. If you don't do well, what if? you know it's okay to fail one test, fail one exam. It's actually good for a child to fail a year so they understand the value of studying. Otherwise, you see, I hear many of them um, who have passed out, struggled, passed out because of parental pressure. They get on to workforce, they don't get a very good job. They say, I should have studied very well. Now my brother is 52, 53, and he struggled to complete his degree. And now he says, I regret not having gone to engineering. I should have done it. But then it was a different thing. It was like, I don't care, because somewhere the worry that parents carry, they want to offload it. And typically by not performing well or underperforming, or fear of performance also. Right? Health anxiety when the children are young, when the children fall sick, you know, we make them drink, we go to the doctor instantly, we don't wait. We know that it's viral fever, lasts for 7 days, temperatures go up and down. Wait it out for a day, put some wet cloth, make them drink lots of fluids, instantly we run. I mean, there's other aspect of also, I cannot take off from work. I worry that my days off are the number of days off remaining are reducing each day I take off. So worry that I have so much of work to do at office. So I become anxious. Oh, don't climb, don't run, don't get sick, don't go with someone who is having cold. Stay home, it's raining outside, don't play out. Repeat hundreds of times. This was long time ago when both parents were home. My cousin, who's much older than me, he apparently fell sick one time, a little sick in the sense, again, cold. Parents never allowed him to go without a muffler, with a hooded jacket, no bananas in the winter or monsoon seasons for life. I mean, he's a grandfather now, but no, he will not. Oh, I have to take care of myself. I mean, at old age, it's a different thing, right? But health anxiety is too much in us. And then there's financial anxiety. I don't have enough. I have to make ends meet. I have to save for your future. I have to double income is mandatory for you to go to a good college. And somewhere the child starts feeling, am I a burden here? Should I ask? I want to go have, something outside. Should I even ask? Because the father would have yelled at mother for buying a bottle of water at a restaurant one time. So it's like, now I'm thirsty. Should I ask for a bottle of water? So things like that, where children start feeling guilty and begin worry, is my future safe? Right? We also exhibit social anxiety. Don't behave like this with people. There are people, what will people think? So, all these are silent messages that children receive. And it's not just me as a parent, they're also receiving from the environment. Nobody has to say it aloud, it's just that I'm carrying it. Then I say, don't worry, we are fine, but it doesn't look like that you are fine. Child sees, okay, I see mother worried. I need to stay perfect so I don't add on to her worry. The world is unsafe. I need to control everything. So many different beliefs start building up. And this will cost us in the adult. We become chronic overthinkers. We become people pleasers. Um, we avoid conflicts. We are workaholics. We are emotionally exhausted. There's another person I'm working with. She's hardly 30, late 30s. She's exhausted trying to balance all of these things, worrying about what if husband is okay, but one child falls off the track. She has three children. So it's one or the other she's trying to balance constantly. So somewhere, we go out of what is needed to be done now into the future, and that child begins to carry from us. So becoming aware of myself, my thoughts, my actions, my worries, and slowing it down a little bit and pausing to ask question, is what I am thinking right now helping my family feel safe, helping my children feel secure, is something that we can do on daily basis to help our children not begin to imitate our fears. So they become, sort of dysfunctional adults. So let's begin fixing ourselves in some way slowly so children feel safe enough to be themselves, to grow up to be balanced human beings. Thank you.